Welcome to the Ethereally Elevated podcast with your favorite spiritual and sexy stoner. Hello, my ethereal beings. I'm Krystal, your host of the Ethereally Elevated podcast, where we talk about all things cannabis and all things spirituality and how they complement each other. For all things weed and witchy, follow me on all of my socials, which can be found in the description box down below as always. Hi, my ethereal beings. I hope your day is going well. Welcome to episode 2 of the Ethereally Elevated podcast. I'm super excited to be here and I'm excited to jump into this topic. And this will be the first episode of a series, but I'm excited to talk about fostering intentionality with cannabis. It is my hope that in this series, of course, I'm going to touch on the ways in which I foster intentionality with cannabis, like which activities I like to do and especially enhance with weed, which activities that I like to do, but I'm definitely thinking long term, of course. And I really hope to get some guests on here so that we could chop it up and talk about, the ways in which they use weed to enhance their lives and better their lives. So I'm super excited to start. So let's jump into it. So yes, this first episode out of the series of intentionality with cannabis, with weed, I will be focusing today on the newly acquired love of my life, which is yoga. And first of all, if you would have asked me even, beginning of this year, if I were to ever get into yoga at all, I would have been like, no. Yoga was just like one of those activities. I've tried it before, I've done it with sports teams because it is really a good exercise and a good way to ground yourself, of course, but a good strengthening exercise, strengthener. It's not too hard on the joints like we have with some other sports and other physical activities. It has become a favorite activity for me to do. I was definitely a person in the past where I had a lot of trouble really understanding and really knowing what it meant to ground myself, what it meant to slow down. I was definitely always going. And as I've healed a lot of my wounds, as I've embarked on this journey of spirituality, I definitely have made it a point and I have really healed those wounds that I have for myself in terms of always being in a sort of masculine energy, always having to be doing something without really taking the time to slow down. So yoga helped me with that. When I started in April, I think either the beginning of April or like the second week. So it is about to be 3 months consistently that I have been doing yoga. Definitely not, I swear to God, like it's not something I ever foresaw for myself. Foresaw, is that even a word? It's not something I ever saw myself doing or really enjoying. Because like I said, I did it before, it was nice or whatever. It was a way to cool down. It was like a very easy exercise. It's still challenging for sure, especially as I've built up my stamina and my strength. Like it's not as hard, but like I said, I've been doing this for 3 months now. That shit is still hard. Yeah, it's one of those exercises that has really, really been grounding for me. Like I said, I started 3 months ago and I started doing it in the morning before I went to work. And at that point, I didn't even have a job. So I just started doing it in the morning. So it was really nice. It was a way for me to collect my thoughts. It was a way for me to like I said, ground myself, expel any confusing energies or just any energies that were just all over the place. And it cleared my head for the day ahead. And it was just really nice. Now, something that I never considered or thought would be a good mix for me, because when it comes to, of course, as we know, there's 2 different strains, indica and sativa. I was definitely more of an indica smoker. So at that point, I was on the couch. I don't want to do anything. I was just chilling. But especially as I've gotten more into sativa, and I've actually switched a little bit from my favorite strains being indica to my favorite being sativa. But I definitely appreciate aspects of both of them. I know that there are a time and place for each. I've definitely incorporated sativa more into when I'm actually doing things, and indica into when I just want to chill. But yeah, like I said, I never really considered weed being really good for me personally when it came to doing yoga, because I tend to lose my train of thought. When it comes to doing things especially with weed, I love cannabis. I do. This is the reason why I started my business and I created this podcast in the first place. But I know that there are some times where I can't really do stuff, if that makes sense. I would definitely describe myself as a baby smoker right now, which I'm not ashamed to say because we all have to start somewhere. So yeah, I'm definitely a baby smoker, a baby dabbler, if you will, of cannabis right now, but I feel like I'm definitely upping my tolerance just a little bit more. So it's easier for me to do like pretty important tasks or like, have some sort of hands-eye coordination while I'm high. But yeah, yoga was just one of those things that I never even saw that for myself. I never saw myself incorporating cannabis into it. However, I think this was in April where I went to the first high yoga class. And if you've been following me on my socials, I definitely talk about high yoga all the time. I love, love, love it. I just recently made a little vlog about my experience there. I'll be coming back for more. And I do have a little surprise at the end of this video, at the end of the podcast, where I actually got to sit down with the founder of high yoga and talk to her. It was really, really cool. Well, I think I just spoiled the surprise, didn't I? Anyways, all of that to say, I stumbled upon high yoga's page when I was on Instagram, and I was like, ooh, like this is an interesting concept. And I think the reason, and that's a lie, like the first class I went to in April, but I definitely had followed her for just a little bit before because I was curious. I was like, ooh, this looks nice. I was definitely at that point looking into a membership at Work and Roll, which is where some of the classes occur, I think on Mondays. But yeah, I was just looking into it and I was like, oh yeah, this seems nice. But then I told you, I had that, I don't know what to call it, like that situation where me and weed, when I had to do things, like it didn't mix. So I guess I was like a little apprehensive at first for sure. But then I saw that, I think in April, it was the first Flow with Tea series, which, as you know, also, if you follow me, it had featured Solati and her beautifully crafted artisanal teas. They are literally delicious. And if you're ever in New York, first of all, hit me up because I definitely have a lot of events under my belt. Like I know what's happening, so just let me know what you're interested in. But yeah, like if you're ever in New York and you do go to one of these events, more likely than not she'll be there. She'll be doing her thing and crafting her delicious teas, which I believe, a little bit of a tangent, like I said in my last episode, I do this from time to time, but I believe when it comes to people, especially making food, just making things for us to consume, like for me personally, I could really tell when someone put their whole foot in there. And it's just like, I feel with Solati, like she does that literally every single time. Like it tastes good, it's high vibrational, it makes me feel good. So I'm like, I want to share that joy with other people. I want other people to know about it. So yeah, a little bit of a tangent, but all that to say, like she really puts her foot in it. So I was really excited. I had first met her in December. I went to another event late December, like literally December 30th, with one of my line sisters, and we had tried her tea. I had let her try the tea for the first time. She was like, oh my God, this is so good. The infused honey is good because she infuses the teas with infused honey, and I've had just the infused honey. I've had it in my morning teas and it is amazing. I've had it on a peanut butter and honey sandwich, which you're sleeping, those are slept on. You're sleeping on if you've never had a peanut butter and honey sandwich. Of course, for those who like peanut butter and for those who aren't allergic. But I've had it on a good amount of stuff and it was delicious. Anyways, all that to say, like, I was really excited. Her work first of all, her work preceded itself, and then it spoke for itself. Once you did chase them, it's delicious. So I was like, wait, high yoga, something I've been a little bit apprehensive about and been wanting to try. And then Solati, like one of my favorite things about going to these events, rolled into one, mixed into one. So I was really excited. I was like, fucking, let's do it. So that first class was really amazing. I got to chat with her. I met a lot of the legacy, I don't know what to call y'all, and like correct me if I'm wrong if anybody sees the video or if anybody ever listens to the podcast, because not all of them are growers obviously, but they are all like in the legacy community, which is just like before cannabis was even legalized recreationally here in New York. They were growing, they were advocating for it and all that good stuff. So they are legacy individuals, legacies. I'll just call them legacies. How about that? I did meet a lot of legacies while I was at that particular event, and we just all had a good time. We cut it up. We did some yoga. We grounded ourselves. With high yoga, we're able to smoke before, during, and after the event, which was really, really cool. We are able to enjoy the wonderful views that Work and Roll has to offer. It's right by the Empire State Building, and it was just a really cool vibe. So I was like, yeah, definitely gonna make it back, and I was able to do so last Monday. Oh my God, that was already last Monday. Was it? I don't know. I think it was. Like, I don't know about y'all, another tangent. I don't know about y'all, but like time for me lately, everything was like, wow, that was only last week. Like it felt like ages ago. Like I felt like it could have been 2 weeks, which is crazy. So yeah, it was a really great event this Monday as well. And after the first event, I had been engaging with Emily, who is the founder of High Yoga. I'd been engaging with Emily, sharing her posts. She also had like followed me for a good amount because in that first class, I was like, hey, like I have a spiritual page. Let me know if you ever want to like collaborate or just check me out, because I definitely at that point in April and since December, since I went to the Growers Cup and then since I went to that vendor event, I was like, okay, like I really like cannabis. And as I said in the first podcast too, spirituality is my first love. So is there a way to mix the two together? So I definitely like, bounced the idea off of Emily at that point. She had followed me and we had interacted just a few times, but I was so grateful and thankful that she was willing to sit down with me and get 2 videos, not just one, because the first one freaking, I don't even know what happened. I don't know if anybody has this problem when they're using a camera, and I use my Apple Watch to start the recording because I could see the frame, I could see if we're in frame and stuff. Since I was using the back camera and I started it and it was fine for like 8 minutes, and then the interview itself probably was 20 minutes. So I was like, damn, bro, I was very upset. Anyways, all that to say, she is a wonderful soul who I appreciate her taking the time to not only interview with me once, but twice, who shares my stuff, who's just overall like such a sweet soul. I love the work that she does, and I'm grateful for what she brings to the community and for what she offers me personally as an interview and engaging with me and sharing my stuff. And I'm just like super, super thankful. There is at one point in the interview where she did talk about the community that is cultivated in the New York cannabis industry. And it is really just like, it's really close knit. It's very protected of everybody who does something within the industry for sure. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I'm super huge on, if I support you, bro, I'm a ride or die. Like, I'm going to share your stuff. I'm going to cheer you on. I'm going to go to events if I want, if I'm available, if I'm able to. I am just gonna, I'm going to root for you all the way. And like, it's like every single individual does that for every single other individual. Like, even if you are, there's 2 growers, technically y'all are in competition with each other, but they still support each other. Like, they ride for each other heavy. So I love seeing that. I'm very appreciative of, I'm not like super in the community yet, but mark my words, for anybody listening to this podcast, I will be in it. I definitely want to bring this niche, this topic of spirituality into cannabis, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that, have inklings. They have these same things. Like, right now in this episode, I'm talking about intentionality with cannabis. I'm sure they think about these things, but for somebody to voice it, for somebody to encourage it amongst, the rest of the community, I'm sure it is something that's not really being done right now. So mark my words, I'm going to find some way to incorporate it in there. Not in a cocky sense either, but in knowing that, I'm an Aquarius. Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is about community and friends and fans, of course. Aquarius is about thinking outside the box. It's about offering, offering like a viewpoint, offering a point of view that may not really be easily and as readily seen as it can be. So I'm hoping to add a little unique dash of Krystal, because y'all know how I am. I am very much like, something that I didn't realize before is that I'm very much, since Aquarius and Aquarii and Leos are sister signs, as y'all know, Leos are pretty much always like, I'm gonna stand out from the rest. It's just that Leos are big and boisterous about it. And Aquarii were just like, okay, we still want to stand out, but maybe not with all of that attention at all the time, if that makes any sense. But I do like to foster community, having a community where I can contribute to it as well. And of course, it contributes to me. It's something that I really, I hope for. It's something that I am excited for. And I hope that I can be able to do. And, definitely it's already started to be pretty well received, which I'm really excited for. And in the early stages of my podcast, y'all, my OG listeners, are definitely going to be here for all the development. So we're in this together, and I'm very happy, excited, grateful that you all are here right now. But let us get back to the real subject of what we're supposed to be talking about today. So Intentionality. That was just a little bit of a rundown as to how I kind of started to mix yoga, which has really become so good for me, with cannabis. So I would say, and obviously, I'm gonna give you a rundown of what I do. It actually wasn't until Sunday morning, this past Sunday, so literally yesterday, it wasn't until Sunday morning where I went out onto my terrace and I did yoga pretty much in the sun and outside. Would I recommend it in that particular place? No. Outside yoga in general, I'm definitely going to attempt to do again. But yeah, I went on Sunday. I made sure to get a little video so y'all could see it too. And that was the first time on my own, not going to a class. It was the first time that I incorporated cannabis with spirituality. It was really nice. I didn't smoke as much as I usually do, when it's a Friday, every single Friday, and sometimes Sundays. I do smoke, and Saturdays if I stay home. So like every single Friday, for sure. Every Friday is like it's a little ritual for me. At the end of the day, it's really nice. I look forward to it so much. Sundays, pretty much I usually do smoke on Sundays too. So I was like, okay, like let's do some yoga today. I think that it'll be really fun to try on my own. And it was really nice. There's just something about yoga, first of all, like really loosening you up. Number one, because it's nice and slow and just it eases you into the stuff that you're supposed to be doing. And it, like, yoga essentially to me feels like dynamic stretching. Like it's dynamic stretching without without it being too fast and too brisk at a time. So already, off the bat, your body is nice and loose and calm. And then on top of the physical benefits which yoga gives you, which is strengthening your muscles, which is helping to stretch them out, which is relieving the tension, relieving the tightness, and all of that good stuff. On top of that, the best thing, the reason why yoga is one of the best things to do is because also of the mental benefits that it provides for you. So, especially okay, oh my gosh, I don't even have the book around me. And the reason why I definitely started yoga in the first place, and I was like, okay, like let's try it out because I've tried it before. Like I said, I did it on sports teams as an active recovery day. I tried it on my own, and I was like, oh no. And at that point, I didn't have the same strength that I have now, of course, which is why it's enjoyable. But when you're first building up that strength, like that shit's gonna be hard. And before I even had the opportunity to do so, the opportunity to build up my strength, I did end up giving up, which is something I've learned not to do, which, it's a lot of stuff that I will go into in subsequent episodes. But the main reason why I restarted it was because of the book that I was reading, which definitely ties into spirituality. You will hear me reference this book like a million times during these podcasts because it definitely has this book that I'm reading. It's called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole Pera. And it is essentially talking about the spiritual journey, but she is a licensed psychologist. So literally it's the spiritual journey, but in scientific terms, which I thought was like very nice and easily digestible for the rest of the collective, like I said, who don't believe in this woo-woo stuff, which I completely understand. Even I, as a spiritualist, as somebody whose life is spiritual, whose journey here is spiritual, it definitely, there's a lot of stuff that's like really kind of weird that is even hard for me to digest. I'm like, I don't really agree with that. So I can imagine like a regular person, but it's very easily digestible. I love the book. It helped me with my spiritual journey, the continuation of it. It helped me with my healing, but it also helped me, in the book, I learned about the power of breath, number one, and the power of healing your body from the top down in a top down process, and then from the bottom up. So the bottom up is like, and if anybody else has read the book or if anybody else has heard of these terms, like definitely correct me if I'm wrong in the comments or anything like that. For a top down process, it is your mind kind of helping your body to slow down, helping it to really like ground itself. And a bottom up process is your body helping your mind to do the same, to ground, to calm down, to stop some intrusive thoughts and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of examples of the top-down process. I cannot think of any right now, which is irking me. So yoga is actually a bottom-up process where you are using your physical body, you're using the power of your breath to really quiet every single thing that's going on in the mind. Any racing thoughts you have, any doubts, it really helps you to ground in the present moment. And that has been the most enjoyable thing for me personally all my life. And I definitely think it's like attribute it to two reasons. Number one, I'm an air sign, and air signs are like always in their heads, always up in the clouds, you know, like it takes a good amount of work for us compared to the rest of the elements to really ground down into the physical world. Essentially, it takes a good amount of time for us, or I mean, at least for me, you know, I'm going to speak on a personal level. And then number two, especially due to my upbringing and my childhood trauma and feeling as though, like, you know, it was just a lot of stuff in terms of my emotions. I didn't feel validated, you know. I grew up in a family where emotions weren't readily accepted and stuff like that. So it really made me kind of shut down in a way, if that makes sense, in almost every sense. Because, you know, you're a child, like you're out here, you're exploring the world. Everything is going to be an emotion. Everything is going to feel big. And to have family members that are just like, okay, like, all right, you're done. We don't have to focus on this anymore. Like, and I spoke about this in my readings that I did earlier today, going over the boulder being your emotions, going over it rather than getting through it, you know, just like sidestepping something that was a common theme within my family. And, you know, I'm learning from it now. I'm healing. I realize that it is up to me to heal that aspect of myself. But like I said, that I can attribute that to being the second reason why I'm just like all up in my head, you know, like wasn't really feeling as though I was validated as a child. I spent a lot of time with myself physically. And then of course, you know, that contributed to spending a lot of time in my head. So pretty much all my life, think about it, since I was a child, I'm currently 24, I've been in my head so much, and it has caused a lot of doubt. It's caused a lot of internalizing of these core beliefs that were not even mine to begin with. So it's definitely something that I've been learning from, and yoga really just is one of the ways where I can just take a beat for 30, 40, 50 minutes in my morning and just tell my mind to shut the hell up, okay? You know, while you're doing yoga, like I said, you have to build up that strength. It's not something that just happens immediately. It's something that I had to work on myself. And of course, in the beginning, my mind was just like, oh my God, like this is hard. Like, let's get out of this position right now. Like, it is so hard. And then I do yoga with Adrian pretty much exclusively, and Emily. But I do yoga with Adrian, who is also just like, I think she has some Aquarius placements. I had to look it up. But she is just super fun, and she encourages us to listen to our bodies and not, you know, take sensation over shape. Like, oh, you know, some of the poses that I do, they're not going to look like everybody else. Number one, because I'm just now getting into yoga, I'm not that advanced. And number two, because I am a plus size gal. So it's just her like really encouraging us to think about how it feels rather than how it might look. It's for us to do things that our body feels good to us. You know, her motto is, and her trademark actually is, find what feels good. So what feels good to me might be different, you know, to another person, which is what I like about her so much. And it's helped me to accept those parts of myself. Like, yes, what works for me won't work for other people. I am a unique being, and that is totally okay. So I'm very appreciative of doing that class. But yes, anyways, all that to say, you know, I do yoga with Adrian, and she is, and I'm sure, you know, other yoga instructors are like that, but she really does a good job of reminding us to really, really use our breath and ground yourself down with the power of your breath. And this is how I learned, like, just how freaking powerful yoga was in general. Now, think about all of this that I just described about yoga, and then add cannabis, a nice experience enhancing substance, okay? And I think I was like, wow, my mind just blew. My world just went like, it's really been such a nice time, because weed already helped me get out of my head, it helps me loosen up. And, you know, coupling it with yoga, I really just think it was like revolutionary to me. Y'all hear me talking about it like, you know, like it's something new, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who've already been doing it. And I know of a lot of people who use weed in general to just work out, to do physical activity in the first place. And I'm just like, damn, you know, I should have hopped on that bandwagon a very long time ago. So it's really nice. So yes, at the beginning, obviously you heard me hype High Yoga up a lot, and everybody that I mentioned, I'm going to be dropping their social media tags down below, of course. But I did want to take this opportunity to share with you guys the wonderful interview that I did with Emily, who, like I said, is an amazing soul. I'm like super happy and grateful that I met her along this path of building my business, number one, but of course of being here on this earth. She truly is a light. She truly gives so much to the community that she is in, and I can't wait to see and support the great things that she does. So without further ado, here is that interview.
What's up? What's up? Thank you for having me.
Of course. Nice of you to be here. Nice of you to invite us into this space. I will let you introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Emily, and I'm with High Yoga. So my brand, we focus on curating cannabis-friendly events that are focused on mindfulness and yoga experiences that are meant for everybody. So my events are heavily focused on incorporating conscious cannabis use into our life, like we're already doing for the most part, and the Canna Curious. So this is a class where you're able to learn about amazing providers, both legal and legacy, in New York, and we're able to try amazing products, amazing goodies, while incorporating gentle movement and breath work into our practices. So we're able to take those things home with us as tools to incorporate into our daily lives.
Awesome. This is my second time, I believe, my second yoga class with you. They have been amazing each and every time. I definitely need to make it a point for
I think every time I've seen Krystal pop up, I'm like, okay. The flow teas are really one of my truly favorite events. To be able to incorporate into High Yoga's catalog of themes that we're able to provide.
Yeah. When did you first try cannabis?
I was very young, too young. I grew up in a small town, so there you're always kind of not babysat, but you're always around somebody's 16-year-old brother or sister as you're 13, 14. And I was it was the 8th grade school dance. So it was like May of 8th grade going into freshman year. I was 13, and we had a little party with a bottle of like that blue wave vodka. And it was like horrible sugar content. Horrible. I think that's what it was called. It was a blue alcohol thing. We went to somebody's parents' cabin afterwards where the parents let us hang out there, but had no idea the older cousins therefore provided us with about an eighth of weed at the time in a bottle. And we were about 10, 13, and 12-year-old girls running through the woods high on weed, smoked off of a soda can. So my first experience was definitely not the one that the average consumer would have today in pretty much any state, being that most states, for the most, there's 30-some plus states that are at least medical at this point. So it's definitely not the experience that somebody 21 plus would have medically or recreationally. But that was my first experience. And then it kind of pretty much continued from there on out. I found cannabis to be an escape-esque, so to say, when I was younger. Did good in school, but there was always those things. So I suffer with ADHD. I was diagnosed very young. So cannabis, even though I didn't realize then what I realize now and how it's beneficial, which I'm sure we'll get into more later. I noticed I immediately was like, okay, 13 and on high school, smoked on my way to school, got a ride with somebody that was older, smoked a ball on the way in, smoked a ball on the way out, and kind of forward on from there. Yeah. Okay, when did you start smoking? Growing up in New York.
It wasn't until, honestly, I was at college, which the weird thing is I did go to boarding school for high school, so I could have easily tried it there. I wasn't as adventurous. I was a little bit of a square, still kind of am in some ways, but I definitely tried it freshman year, spring semester of college. It was an interesting experience. I was like, wow, this is what being high is like for the first time. But for me, I found it like immediately one of the things I'm just like, okay, what I realized people enjoy about it is sometimes like the people who you smoke with, like the community was fun. It was a safe space. I don't even remember what we did, but I remember it being like really fun. We ended our night at a diner.
It's like an adventure. Yeah, I would end my night at McDonald's when I was, even like the diner college experience. Smoking was very real. It was a big bonding moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that. I was just curious.
In the last one, which, guys, I don't want to talk about it, but the video wasn't recording the first one. But in the first video, we definitely spoke about how, like, in a way, like, sometimes, especially when weed wasn't legally wasn't legalized recreationally, like being on a college campus, I felt as though I had to be looking over my shoulder all the time. So even though it was like fun with my friends, it never was just like a calm experience, because there was always like that little thing of, you know, getting in trouble.
that worry, that worry that exists. You know, we were speaking about, you know, DC and things like that. Like I spent a lot of time in DC. Before I was involved in the community here, I would travel out there. I knew people out there, so it was just convenient. Take the bus, have a friend's house to stay at, and you're good. But even there, you're like looking over your shoulder, smoking somewhere where it's technically you're decriminal. It was decriminal at the time. It was decriminalized, and the gifting process had started.
It was an interesting experience.
But
that was my first time going more into like the New York industry and the cannabis scene, as I like to call it. Like, in your words, how would you describe it? How would you describe the community? What do they bring? What do you bring to them?
So the community here is definitely like nowhere else. I have traveled to DC, moved to Miami for some time, and moved back because my life is involved in cannabis, from cannabis hospitality. I've worked in restaurants since I'm 13. So that's that people aspect of it. Despite the work on your body, and being on your feet, I love being able to help provide people with that dining experience. So for me, there's several aspects of that community that really exist here, that even though those things exist elsewhere, the community part is different. The culture, the average safe is just the sesh is different. The way the community comes together for one another. We have sponsors today, New Amsterdam Cannabis. They provided us with activations with pre-rolls, 2 strains. So you're able to have different experiences where Solati will come in. Like, the community comes together for one another to be able to provide things, if that makes sense. Just using today's class as an example of all the people and places work and roll, allowing us this space so we show up for one another. And it's more of how can we grow and remain this legacy to legal, where New York, if before it became medical and recreational, it's all legacy, illegal, illicit, whatever you call it, it's legacy. And that's the terminology we use in New York. So being able to come together with everybody, you know, and stand together and bring this up, and it not be that fight against each other, but that fight together to collaborate, seeing different growers do things together when you're technically competition, but it's another world. New York comes together for their own, and cannabis in New York are definitely, that community is fighting harder than you would imagine. There's people in this room right now that are activists, that put on events, that are growers, that do all these amazing things for the community, that stand there with one another. And you want to branch into this community. Well, we're here for that. We're here for you, to provide you and support you in this safe space, and connect you with those that we can help connect you with. And bring people together, you know. Move back to New York, you get to find a cool spot where you can hang out, work from home, do these things. We have somebody else joining us today that hangs out at another cannabis spot. It's a little smaller, it's different than this spot. So to be able to just bring people together, that are the average consumer, even people that may not even work in cannabis, but cannabis is a huge part of their life. The community welcomes that with open arms. And to come alone, like I started off by coming to events alone.
I'm coming to events.
I went to High Garden alone my first time, and you know, after then, you know, the community, you began the support. They knew I had value in hospitality, and they were looking to add members to their team. They brought me in, and you know, the community supports one another and helps bring you, and then, you know, literally helped me begin to learn. High Garden helped me begin to learn how I can utilize my own skills and freelance, you know, what I have to bring, and move my career fully into cannabis, rather than going back after COVID to serving people beer and wine. I can serve you an elevated THC mocktail instead, and infused banana pudding, you know, or a Brazilian, you know, flight, a fly private social on the weekends. We do separate clubs where you're able to have a dining experience. And it's beautiful. The community is here for support.
Yeah. It's an awesome community. It's been really nice to see people from different walks of life. We were talking about this before too, like literally all age ranges, all ethnicities, races, all that good stuff. So it's always really nice to even see like so many different, like I said, from all walks of life, from different like careers and the ways in which they
come
live
together,
throughout the world.
lawyers,
Yeah.
and everybody be in these rooms together. Where you wouldn't think a lawyer and a cannabis, somebody who grows cannabis is going to be in the same room having a conversation. But maybe it's their lawyer. And those are things that really exist now is doctors and lawyers having conversations with the people that, they used to be fighting to put away.
Yeah. That is true. Ooh. I had to snap it out. Okay. Oh yes, the last one. Last formal question, like I said, do you think that there is a connection between cannabis and spirituality?
Yes, so I'm glad we get to talk about this again. So I definitely believe that cannabis itself is spirituality. It allows you, like any other religion or spirituality, it allows you that safe space to explore yourself, to explore your beliefs, to explore your practices and develop your routines and habits within your day. Same thing with yoga. Yoga itself there's many different, it's a very ancient practice, and it stems off in many different directions. I am not your traditional yoga instructor, and I say that all the time. I am a cannabis instructor who's also certified to teach yoga. And certified in cannabis, several, areas of cannabis education as well. So to me, growing up, being around a Protestant environment, I was raised Methodist. I taught Sunday school when I was in high school to the little kids. So to me, cannabis does have ties to spirituality, because in itself, it's just like spirituality that helps you explore yourself, explore your beliefs, explore your habits. But it also, aids you in exploring yourself better when used mindfully.
Yeah.
And that's a topic that is very controversial. But I believe when anything consumed mindfully, it's all about the intentions.
Yeah. No, I absolutely get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
But thank you so much for having me. This was great. This was great. I'm excited to get ready for yoga and set up. This was wonderful.
I hope you guys enjoyed that interview that I did with Emily. She will more likely than not become a regular on the Ethereally Elevated podcast, and I'm excited for you to hear more from her. I'm excited for y'all to hear more from a lot of other people in the New York City cannabis industry. So look out for that. In this episode, oh my God, my cheeks freaking hurt because I'm cheesing. So yeah, in this episode, I really just wanted to take the opportunity to discuss that with y'all and tell you about how I guess up my intentionality of this particular experience for me of doing yoga with cannabis. So I hope that helped. Let me know if you want to hear more from me about any other experiences. I also would really, really love to talk to a few wonderful souls who use cannabis specifically for fostering intentionality with some of the activities that you do in your life. Hit me up, drop it in the comments on social media. I am always open and honestly excited for people to engage with me. So yeah, just let me know. If you made it to the end of this episode, thank you once again. I will always say that I am super grateful. Let me know down below if any of this resonated with you, if you want to try high yoga now. First of all, if you come to NYC, like I said, I'll send you a little schedule if you want to do high yoga. Number one. And number two, if you want to do high yoga on your own, I absolutely encourage it. But yeah, that's all I had for you guys this week. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you back here for episode 3.